So one thing I'd love to, Brian and I were talking before this call, and Brian's going to do most of the leading of this call, but I just wanted to share a couple thoughts as we open up this morning. And one thing, so I'll just be totally candid. So, we have a business, and part of that business, obviously, there's coaching and consulting, and I coach chiropractors in this group, and I do some private coaching outside of the group, and some that are not even in Max Living. And then obviously our marketing, and we've teamed up with Colin Swalla now to provide marketing services. So that company has kind of joined together. And it's been a fantastic move. Like he's brilliant when it comes to marketing. So he really understands what works and what doesn't, and how to make it as most efficient as possible. But now I'm actually opening up another branch of our business, and it's all got to do with this AI thing. But here's the thing, and I've learned so much in the last couple of years about business and running business and managing teams. And one thing I wanted to just share with you guys is that I'm all about businesses succeeding and scaling. And what that means is creating first of all, a need in the marketplace. In other words, or I should say, discovering a need in the marketplace. In other words, identifying a problem. And this is where it's going to relate to what we're going to talk about today. Identifying a problem, having a solution for that problem, and then developing a deliverable that is very effective, that solves the problem for that people that they're willing to pay for, and something that is very, very reproducible. And this is where my eyes have been open to what we do in chiropractic. And this is part of my coaching for a lot of people lately, is to help them develop a business that is very effective and very reproducible so that you can scale. And you wouldn't believe how many docs that I talk to that their office runs in chaos. It's like some sort of a crazy fire drill where nobody knows where the exits of the building are. And you've got so many things going on. You don't know what's profitable. You don't know what is scalable. You don't know what people really want. And you're spending so much time on tasks that are not making you money. So part of the coaching that we've been doing, in not only in chiropractic, but as a result of this business, is finding out the most desirable, most profitable deliverables, and then creating systems so that they can start to run by themselves without the need for the doctor managing every single thing. So one thing that I really want us to talk about today, and this is just opening up the conversation, is that there are so many things in your life and your practice that you are wasting so much time and energy on that are not advancing you towards your life goals or your practice goals. So you're doing $10 tasks expecting to build $1 million practice, and it doesn't work. So what we want to try to identify is, where are the bottlenecks? Why, I talk to so many docs in that. So in the marketing system, you wouldn't believe how many docs, they get fantastic results with new patient flow or lead flow, and they come back and say, hey, turn it off. Turn off the ads, or let's reduce our ad spend because we're getting too many. Like, when you get to the point where you've got too many, you need to start to reevaluate the systems and say, how can we deliver this at a better scale so that we can double the new patient flow in our office and be able to serve them appropriately and really build great rapport with everybody. So this is one of the things we want to talk about today, is open up the door to talk about bottlenecks. What is holding you back? And some of you don't even know, like, you have no idea what's holding you back, but you're in the state of chaos. You're only at a certain level and you can't seem to get to the next level, or anytime you have, you've sabotaged because you use the same systems when you get to this level that created this level. And what happens is you and your team sabotage everything. And ultimately you have this great gain, and then it goes back down to where it was. So we need to talk about the systems and the mindset that are involved in creating a better life and a more efficient business, a more efficient practice for yourself. So I hope that makes sense. And hopefully you guys that are on the call today are going to walk away with some strategies, or at least something to think about, to change your mindset to go in that direction.
Well, this will be a lot more interactive call. If you guys saw my Marco before this, like we do a lot of teaching on here. And just like we got Colin and I were just on another coaching call. I just had a workshop in my office last night. But there's a huge difference, like Jen Temple always talks about that jacuzzi experience. You come, you learn a lot of good content, but if it not doesn't become actionable, like nothing actually changes. There's a huge difference to people, like we was talking in the last coaching call we were on, of the outcomes that people see, even if they get the exact same content from being on live, just the integration that will happen versus people who watch a recording of it later. So these are some of the big pieces. So today isn't so much about a teaching piece. Today's a lot more about an action piece, and just touch on what Colin was talking about there, like with the things I do outside of practice and things like that. Sitting on the board of Max Living, chairman there, now on the board of Kingdom Health Sciences as well. I've been able to see a lot of people outside of chiropractic who have done really big things, like top of their niche, like Jordan Rubin, spent time with Josh Axe, Tony Ebel, Gazagoli, Pete Sulak, like people who've done really big things. And the more time I spend with them, a couple things, and Colin touched on them, they're not necessarily extraordinary people. They don't have these extraordinary abilities. They're pretty average people. They are very much possibility thinkers. So they're not like, oh, because of this, I just couldn't do that. They're very much possibility thinkers. And the things and the strategies that go into place, it's with a lot of simplicity. So they're not overly complicated. There's not a ton of different steps. They do think about it 360, but there's a lot of simplicity to it. But then there's action. So it's not just these ideas. It's not this goes wrong. It's thinking about that in possibility thinking and simplicity thinking. So today I really want to be about, this should be a year-end review. So we're November, right? This should be a time when you're considering being a business owner, year-end review, where are we at? What I want to start thinking about, what I want 2026 to look like. Like unless this was like your best year ever, this wouldn't be a run it back year. It'd be more like, okay, so what went well, we keep doing. What are the things that like I'd like to see different? So talking about what you really want. Nothing what you can be capable, but thinking of what you really want. So, like if we're just talking about practice stuff, like is it about more volume? Is it about maybe bigger impact in your community? Is it about collections? Is it about something maybe even bigger where you're starting to think more like longevity stuff, like something big that I get remembered for or my clinics remembered for? Or maybe you're in a transition piece. You're like, hey, how do I still have the same impact in my community, in my office, say same number of people, or maybe more, maybe collect the same amount, or maybe more, but I spend less time inside the office? We want to be thinking about those pieces. And today's really about building out that plan and masterminding around that. So where are people at? Where are the things where you want to see the next level? And we can actually mastermind this and plan this out. So if you haven't done this can become your year-end review and your planning going into next year. What are the things you want to see? What are the action steps? What are things we look at? So you can actually start to actionable those and have those outcomes show up.
So can I give you a couple of examples just to open up the conversation here? So here's a couple of examples of some coaching calls that we had lately. And so one girl who happens to be in ML, and she has a practice in the US, and she implemented a couple of years ago, she implemented SoftWave. And it was a great thing to implement in her office because it helped her to compartmentalize all of the patients who had extremity type of complaints, sprains, strains, things like that, that she often got slowed down by trying to help them to understand that even though you might have a sprained ankle or a sore knee, I'm still going to adjust your atlas, and the power that made the body heals the body, and your body's going to heal. People had a hard time understanding that. So she specifically implemented SoftWave to manage those complaints. So now she has a person in her office that does all the software. So somebody comes in with a knee problem, and now she doesn't waste time because she's relatively high volume. She doesn't waste time. She just says, I would suggest that you start a course of SoftWave. And she has care plan packages, 6 visits, 10 visits, 12 visits, whatever that is. And so she would say, go to the front desk, and they would sign up for a SoftWave plan. And then she would not see them. They would go, and the staff person would manage that, set up the appointments, do the SoftWave quote unquote treatment, and fantastic. And it's really solved the problem, not to mention opened up another stream of income. So I asked her about it the other day, and she said it was doing well. She goes, but we actually have a waiting list now for the SoftWave. I said, why don't you open it up to other hours outside the office and just have your team come in and manage it? And she goes, I don't know that I can do that. She goes, because the board may not allow me to do that. And I said, have you actually called the board? She goes, well, no, I haven't. I said, here's your homework for today. Call the board, your state board, and find out, is SoftWave a doctor dependent type of modality? So sure enough, she did. It's not. Therapy places use SoftWave. Individuals can buy a SoftWave machine. So it's not a licensed type of thing. So now she's opened up a whole bunch of other hours to have a staff person come in when typically the office would have been closed, just to manage those SoftWave patients. And it's going to double the income stream that she's making from this, just from one simple phone call. So I think the purpose of me telling you guys this is to look at the things you're doing and start thinking outside the box. How can I scale this? How can I make this easy? And how can I buy back my time by getting somebody else to manage this?
I can tell you, like personally, like I went through this after coming back from MLX and um, created a huge action plan based on where we were, things where I felt I needed better outcomes as far as the office goes, things where I needed to create more freedom in my life to do things that I felt were important, that are high on my priority list. And it's a 2.5 page document that now leads into training and actionables and outcomes that then flows into the office. And this is going to dictate our next 90 days of trainings. There's a lot of procedures that get revamped because of it. Um, so there's a ton there. Like unless like honestly, unless you have like your dream practice right now, the only point of this call, like there's no teaching. This is an action-based call. It's like if there's something that you're like, hey, I identify this as a challenge right now. Let's talk about it and let's get an action plan. Hey, I'd like this to be better next year. I'd like to see more volume, more money. I'd like to have more time outside of the office, whatever that is. There's got to be something. Um, unless, like I said, you're living your dream right now. But I would imagine most of us, the way we're wired, there is no best. There's always better.
I can talk. I'll go. So we've been going through a lot of transition, I think, as everyone knows, but I do have I love my practice. Dream volume, not yet, but we're really close. Dream collections, awesome. We're doing really well there, but there's always room for growth. I've taken on another chiropractor, and now we're seeing a little bit of a decline because I've completely transitioned out of adjusting. I'm just there doing new patients and specials. So we're getting a bit of a dip because we're transitioning to that doctor completely taking over. And so we're just trying to generate more leads to have him take over where I'm doing all the specials. So I've changed them. I pivoted and shifted with Colin, and I'm sure Dr. Colin will know what's going on, because if those companies are together, then he'll know exactly. So we're bumping up our ad spend. I was like, let's double it. Let's double the ad spend. Let's start doing grassroots things. So I need some more ideas, but we're gonna do some grassroots things in terms of day sixes. I'm taking that book back fully from my team. Like our day 6 process is basically a day 4 process where we ask for leads. And we're like our clinic is most likely like it's selling in the next 2 weeks, but I just want to finish really, really strong to set them up for success, obviously. And so has anyone ever encountered that where they transitioned fully out of the practice and the associate do all the adjusting and they've noticed numbers decline, and what you do to rectify that as the lead chiropractor currently in the practice?
So I'll give you a couple things. Colin can probably give you a lot here too. Um, I would be looking at your processes. I would be looking at your adjustment style. And this is important for everyone on the line. If there is a goal at some point that you're not hands-on doing everything as far as the adjustments go, doing everything as far as like a re-exam, whatever, is you have the more and more. So we talk about this a lot in the 750 plus group in Max Living, is standardizing the procedures. The less ninja stuff you do, the better it's going to be. Because there's too many things. Like if you're just like you do some sort of special fancy adjustment and only you can do it, there's going to be a problem if you step out. If there's certain things that you know just because of your clinical experience, someone says something, you ask a follow-up question. How do you standardize that procedure so someone newer, greener with less experience can get to that same point? And that's a lot of what I've been building out in my office. So those are some of the big things to not experience the dip in that. Is getting that piece over. If you're transitioning over right now where you are, Corey, and you have been doing some of that ninja stuff, the transition piece, like you have to teach your new person the ninja stuff. I teach it to them in front of the patient so they know, right? So they know that this person knows all of their secrets. The biggest thing I've ever found passing patients over to team docs, so other associates in the office, is some patients assume you just know things about them. If they know that other doc knows that, they're much happier to get adjusted by that doc. So
Yeah, we have like he's adjusting exactly the lifts and ML style, doing really good in that regard. I haven't had any. Well, I've had like maybe 10%. I've tracked it. Have specifically asked for me, so I'm there for those adjustments. But I think the ninja stuff is really where it happens. Where I answer in 3 words, he takes 72 words. So I'm really working on that part. Sometimes the
another
best
big thing
answer is
would
just
be,
no.
yeah. Well, a huge piece though too, like if you're talking about the adjustment experience, I would do a ton of training on table talk.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, and I have like a Rolodex of answers. So if this comes up, where do you go? Like there's a great book out there um called Turn the Ship Around. And the Cole's notes on that, like it's like a 300-page book. It's a really good book if you're looking for a good read. As far as leadership goes, it's an admiral in the U.S. Navy who took over the ship that failed all the time and turned it into the best one in the Navy. And the big thing, as he talked about, is he taught the people, like his subordinates, the people below him, and military is obviously a very hierarchical thing. He said the biggest thing they did to do that, where they got such good performance and good outcomes, is they taught people the thinking process. So this is a huge thing I do with team. This would be a good thing, especially for docs. I would recommend everyone else on the line with your CAs, et cetera. When something comes up, talk through the thought process, your how you get there, not just giving them the answer. Because once they start understanding your thought process, where you go on those conversations, then they can start having a similar thought process, and they can be a much better leader, much more powerful. Versus sometimes people get nervous and they just want to fill space. That's where the conversations become long.
One thing,
I wrote that down. Thank you.
one thing, Corey, and this is, so I'm glad you brought that up, because this is really important. It all comes back to training. And I would say one thing that I look back on my chiropractic career, and one thing that we adapted to, and again, it was just because I was coachable during that time, was to put in the systems to train our team. And we spent a lot of time training our team and role playing and objection management, and everything that we did was all about making the office more efficient and better. And it paid off. And I don't think I realized how well it paid off until I look back and I kind of oversee what happened throughout the career. There was that time that I had that bad injury, broke my neck, and I was out for 3 months, but I still checked in with the office and tried to inspire the team and everything. But the training we had done up to that time was so good that the office basically maintained its volume through that 3 months and didn't decline, because we had 3 docs in the time. There's myself, Kim, we had another associate doc. So 2 docs took over while I was off and maintained the same volume, that when I came back, we were at the same numbers we were before my accident, before my injury, and we just grew from there. So, but I look back and say that was all a function of training. And here's the thing with training is that I would say now, and this is one thing I've used many, many times when I talk to docs and I talk to teams, is that you want to train your team so well that you are not telling them what to do. They are telling you what to do. They know the system so well and are so confident and certain with the way that things should work. They're directing you on a daily basis. And they're checking with you, hey, did you do your day 1 calls? Did you do your day 2 calls? Like, they're the ones that are actually keeping you in tow. And then you know you've got a black belt team.
Mm-hmm. I'm inventing this. We're doing training today. I want to know your input on this. It's answers in 10 words, or it's answer in 10 words or less. So I'm only allowing them to say this one thing today and tomorrow through adjusting. Ready? Great to see you. Anything new or better today? That's it. Not how are you, not about the J's, not about anything, you know what I mean? So our training today is answer in 10 words or less.
Awesome. It's good.
I would also give them though, like in that the training, go through and demo some stuff first, and demo the tough stuff. Like I had a coaching call today. It's like where the patient comes in and talks about the weather, the patient comes in and talks about the sports team, or the patient comes in and talks about the traffic or whatever.
Yeah, I'll do that.
How does that get transitioned into a better conversation?
Yeah.
Because that's where I find most people get into trouble, is the patient says something and all of a sudden, because we're nice people, we're down a rabbit hole that there's no bearing on their health. It's not a helpful outcome. And the patient likely doesn't even care about it, but they're trying to be nice and fill dead air.
And I think that comes from an insecurity standpoint, correct? Like they just keep talking and talking. And so I say almost nothing at the adjusting table. and he was astonished at how little I said. And I think he's just talking too much and getting backed up. So I have to, yeah, thank you.
So I'll talk on that for a sec though too, Corey. So I don't talk very much at the table as well. And it works very well for me and it's worked very well through my career, but there's a certain presence that gets away with that.
Mm-hmm.
Your new guy likely doesn't have that presence yet. And so there is something like this is what I'm training on with my associates now is what do you talk about at the table? Right? So there should be certain conversations. There's certain ways to end conversations. It should always be around like their hot button should be top line in Atlas or whatever you're using, right? So it's always like you're asked. So you might be talking to them about like first 12 visits, they should be pure chiropractic only, making sure that they understand how to get through the office, get the best results from the care, et cetera, et cetera. If they're a golfer, then you might be asking, hey, how's the golf game going? And you tie their adjustment back to how it's going to make them better at golf, right? If it's like, I want to be able to play with my grandkids, hey, how are the grandkids doing, right? And how that's going to allow them to play with their grandkids. Or, it might be like, oh, my grandson actually got hit from behind in hockey. Really? Who checked him? That can turn into a referral conversation. So I've found, and this is what I'm training with my docs now, is because my pattern's always been, and this is the challenge we see a lot, is there's docs that have gotten to a certain level, but it's the ninja stuff that allowed us to get there. So just because I go into the table or you go into the table and our presence allows that to go well, it doesn't mean someone else pulls that off, right? So we want to get more about what's the simplistic part. So what is the table talk conversation? And you give them stuff to talk about. And you give them, how do you transition when someone talks about the weather or the Blue Jays or whatever? So I started to change that because my thing was like mine's anyone who's seen anything in my office, it's a loud hello. Great to see you today, Corey. I always start the conversation. I still do. But now I'm going to make sure there's a conversation around it because me as the leader, I have to model that. So just because I can pull it off different, you should not be expecting other people to. What's the model that 90% of chiropractors out there could do?
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
The other piece, though, just because I know one of your things is more leads. This is something we've gotten anchored on. It's on my action list. Is referrals. I would really look at referrals. I think a lot of us through COVID, just because we couldn't do outside stuff, get a bit lazy on it. And once you get into that pattern, so you definitely, like in this day and age, want to have digital marketing happening. But if you're not high in the referral piece, like what I would say is number one, track it based on how many new patients or starts you get, how many starts you get, how many referrals do you get the following month, right? You should be tracking that so you understand what that is. A couple things looking into this, when you look into like the best businesses, people do not refer to good experiences. They only refer to excellent experiences. So you want to look around. So what does a day one look like in your office? What does the regular adjustment process look like in your office? Right? Is there long waits? Most people don't like long waits, right? Do they get acknowledged? Right? You want to start breaking this down because there's a huge piece and it becomes way more than a doctor-driven thing. It's a team-driven, office-driven thing. People also don't refer to complicated experiences. So if it's not real easy to refer, like one thing, like Erdmeyer is probably the best person I know at this. So like they get like 60 or 70 referrals a month. I think they do about 140 new, but almost half of them referrals, right? And they do know day four, but they teach people how to refer, right? And like his thing is when you feel that this is a good place for people to get well or stay well, we just ask you to tell other people.
Mhm.
But do you know how to refer?
Yes.
You just take this card, you give it to him, and he does referrals like every new patient, whether it's a Facebook referral, whatever, is all the same price to keep it easy. But it's just like, how does it become easy for someone just to tell their friend? Because some of us, like, we make it overly complicated. Like, you come from this route, it's this price. This route, it's that price. This route is the other. And like, it's confusing for your team. So all of a sudden, they can be weird phone calls.
Yep.
Number one, track it and then determine what you want it to be.
We haven't done a lot of referrals. We've been, seeing lots of new patients until this last recent month when I transitioned out of adjusting, and my focus has been on training new people. And I think that's why, because my focus is not on growth referrals. So I'm just gonna. They're trained. They just have to now start implementing. I believe that too. I mean, there's always room for more training, but yeah. Thank you.
Can I give you guys a little exercise, a little action step moving into 2026? And again, this is all, if your mindset is to create a business, a profitable business that doesn't involve you as the driver in every single thing, here's a nice little exercise to do. And that is look back over the last 3 months, get your revenue sheet and look at all of the things that brought revenue into your practice. So maybe it was selling a supplement. And you could even break it down into which supplements sold the most and itemize them from the thing that brought in the most revenue, which maybe that's your chiropractic adjustments, to maybe you have a massage therapist brought in so much revenue, maybe you sell supplements, maybe you sell home care kits that brought in so much revenue, and itemize them from top to bottom. And then figure out the profit margin of each of those revenues. And I'm going to probably tell you that 20% of the things that bring in revenue are bringing in 80% of the total revenue of your practice. So it's time to really start to look at the bottom few items that are bringing in a little bit of revenue and just cut them off. And just make sure that your focus for you and your team is on the things that are going to create the best return. And that's a great model to be able to build a foundational business, identify the highest valued things that you deliver and the things that people want the most, and then be able to scale it. So to be able to scale, you have to get the things that are draining your energy out of your system for you and your team and work on the things that are going to bring the most return. It's a great exercise. And I would encourage you to do it. Do it for a period of 3 months, even do it for 1 month and just see what you come up with. So here's
Anyone else
one
looking
more,
for something better next year?
here's one more example on that same note. And sorry, Brian, I don't mean to cut you off if you're
You're
going
good.
on a topic here. So here's an example. So again, another coaching client, been coaching him literally for 13 years, since around 2000 and, well, in fact, maybe 15 years, 2010. Great guy, always had a practice. He's in the Southern United States, always had a practice where he was collecting maybe 25K a month and consistently. And then of course, in the summer months, when all the snowbirds went home, it would go down to maybe 18K, 20K. And then in the winter months, we go up to 25K. About 4 years ago, we talked about, how can he improve his practice? He had started a nutrition program, which was giving him some moderate income. I said, why don't you look into decompression? And we had that conversation. Well, he did. He went ahead and brought the decompression table in. He bought one of the higher end decompression tables, DRX 9000, 65K US. He leased it. It was a big venture for him. But the first month with his lease payment, it was $1,350. He was $1,350 a month. That table, because we set it up and planned it in the first month, brought in 20K. So he made, 17K profit, 18K profit in the first month of having that table in, because we'd planned it, put the systems in place, more than he'd ever made on anything else. Well, sure enough, built that along. Within a year, he'd bought his second table, cleared out a room, did a few renovations so he could have a second table in there. And now his whole practice, his main focus is decompression. His advertising is decompression. His systems are decompression. He's totally revamped his practice, and it has freed up his time because now he's seeing less people, making more money, consistently collects over 100K per month. 100K per month, one doc, 2 staff members, one of them's part-time. So start analyzing what you're doing. And I guess the thing is to start to realize, look at the things that are draining your energy, because most of you are still doing tasks that you could probably pay somebody minimum wage to do for you on a regular basis. Anybody else want to share anything?
Or want help with anything?
I thought everything was a great point, but understand the more people, more different practitioners you bring on, as much as you think they're going to be independent, you are babysitting. So you do need to realize you either hire a manager and be willing to pay for them to do it, or know that you are babysitting them. And so, yes, our business on the other side will bill over $1 million, but there's a lot of babysitting. You know, people who are late, you know, whatever, wearing the wrong clothes, not wearing deodorant. Like, you do need to know that
Basic stuff.
there's some basic shit that you are going to have to manage, and or pay someone to manage. And do I think it's all worth it? Absolutely. But you know, you want sure. And the shockwave for us, I do delegate it to my kinesiologist and the physiotherapist, which they've been very, very happy with, because now their billings have gone up over 30%. So now that keeps them longer, because they're now, instead of billing $90 every half an hour, they're going to be billing $140 every half an hour. So that makes them happy and then helps them stay. But again, you know, do they clean the thing? Do they, you know, do a consent form? You're still babysitting a little bit. So just realize that, you know, once you get the systems in place, you still have to have slips and checks, and monitor it. Little things like they put a heater on and they leave the heater on all night. So I'm like, that is a fire hazard. Little things like that you have to, you know, be aware. And I just want to make sure that people know that, yes, it's awesome to have those other streams, but if you're starting out, get good at chiropractic first, maximize that talent, then add your next chiropractor, then add your other services. Because if you try and do all things at once and you're at the beginning, you're going to do all things badly, right? And not excel at anything.
Justine, this is brilliant. I'm so glad you bring this up. And I want to just kind of show a point here. Now, obviously, Justine's on a different level than most of us are, right? You have a very busy practice, but I'm going to just say, this is principled stuff when we're talking about this, is that mindset is 100% of everything. And so even, I'm going to say, so coaching moment here specifically for Justine, if your mindset is that you are babysitting your team, and you specifically use the word babysitting, then it's time to reevaluate what you're doing. Because if you feel that you're in a position of babysitting, it's time to buy back your time, train somebody, hire somebody who has authority to manage that team, to take that out of your mind. Because the last thing you want on your mind is that I have to babysit my team. You want to be a leader and a visionary and an inspirer for your team. And the last thing you want to be doing is checking to see if the heater's still on. So that coaching moment for you,
when you
absolutely need somebody to do that.
You still have to train the hired person to check.
100%.
Yeah. So I have a hired manager for that. And yet, it's still there.
Raise the bar. Raise the bar for that person. Like, that has to be a type A quality person. And so that person's got to take charge of everything, to take it. And this is the whole thing with, you've got the money to buy back your time. And that's going to free up your time for your brilliance to obviously do something bigger in a different space, you know? So
when you look at
I totally, I hear you. I got a manager, but it's in the live moment, it is they still have to learn. The manager has to learn through all the different little steps, right? So it takes a year for them to pick up all the little things that you have to do. They don't learn that in a month, even though they're wonderful.
Yeah, but that's what Justine's saying there, I think is the biggest part, is get good at being a chiropractor first. I have a big team, but we're chiropractic. We're the 5 essentials. We're not doing any of the other stuff, because I don't want the headache for it. It's also, when you look at all the professions out there, there are few, if any, that have the profitability of chiropractic for the amount of time you put in. So if you're trying to figure that part out, you want to be looking at, so if you're looking for like dollars per time, there's not much more you can do than become a better chiropractor, see more people in the same amount of time, get more referrals and things like that. And then the other piece I took from what Justine saying, it's the simplicity, right? If you're not looking get good at the simple stuff first, which is being a good doc, before you think about building out this massive multidisciplinary team, because there's, again, more people you got to manage, more different processes. It just becomes tougher and tougher, and it's sideways energy.
That's an awesome conversation, Justine. I appreciate you bringing that up. But we could have a whole call on just that type of mindset, is managing team how do you do that effectively? So thank you for bringing that up.
I would say our biggest challenge is our whole area is gone very refugee. So like I'm literally facing, I'm almost 50% of patients can't afford $50 a week. So I'm going to be trying to transition. How do I get some chiropractic care more affordable? Because the area has switched, like, and that's not something I can control. 50% of the patients, no problem, that come in the door, and we are getting 50 referrals a month, so that the referral part is good. But honestly, when 6 families are living in a home, and that's the average in my area, that is changed. And so I got to look at, okay, what can I do I might have to reduce fees rather than go up fees, or find different ways to create family plans at a lower rate, and then hire a doctor to do those adjustments at a lower rate. Right? Like really thinking outside the box. Our fees are going up from $60 to $62 an adjustment come January 1st, but creating different ways to do families, because there are so many families in our area, and we get a lot of referrals from the families, but they only have one income coming in for six groups. So I think that's a new challenge compared to other areas. But if anybody's heard somebody who's managed that, that would be interesting, because I used to do the Dr. Mike Reed long time ago. I think it was $3.90, like the first person on, and then $3.99 for the rest of the family. Then I went to discounted rates per family member, but none of that works when they literally, they come in and their income is 30,000 for 6 families. So it's like, holy shit, I don't even know how you do it. So any thoughts on that? Or it doesn't have to be today, but it is a new thing that's coming for us in Brampton, along with Punjabi videos and Punjabi staff. And I mean, like I don't even think I have 10% white patients or Chinese or black. Like I'm literally hitting towards 70 to 80% Punjabi. So it's a whole new game for me. But if anybody's ever experienced that, I'm open to ideas.
Or, again, just throwing this out there, and maybe you're going to resist this suggestion, but or you just price yourself out of the niche and you attract people who can only afford your fees, and you become the most expensive chiropractor in Brampton, and you'll attract that type of clientele. And your practice might dip by half, but your collections might stay the same or go up. So
yep. Different way to look at it.
Different mindset.
Yep. Yeah,
I also do know, Justine,
pivoting for sure.
I know some of the big multi-doc offices I know in the US, there's a certain fee to see the lead experienced doc, and there's a certain fee to see the person fresh out of school.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Yeah, I might have to, if I hire a CMCC person, for sure. They're different, right? We all know that. That's a good point. And if you think it's crazy, I'm doing Christmas. My first Christmas party is coming up this weekend. So
your tree looks amazing, by the way.
I'm loaded 4 Christmas weekends in a row, because then I'm going to Idaho for Christmas. So
wow.
Yeah, it's I know it's early. I'm not dumb. I'm just being organized.
Awesome.
Asking mom.
Anybody else, you guys?
All right. Well, everyone have an awesome rest of the week then.
Take care. See you next week.